Hello and welcome to another episode of the RevRx podcast. My name is Chad Potts and I'm your host. And today I'm so excited to introduce you to my friend, Darrell MacLearn. Darrell has been a friend and a mentor for me over the last several years. You're going to love what he has to say today. The topic of our conversation is going to be limiting beliefs. You might have heard the quote by Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. You see, evidence and research has showed us that the beliefs we have about ourselves, our abilities, our potential, our future, they can really make us or break us. And a lot of times the thing is we don't even realize that we hold these beliefs until we dig in a little bit deeper. So join us for a conversation today about how to unlock your potential, how to identify the things, the beliefs, the thought processes that may be holding you back, and how to really and truly lean into the life that you were created to live. I can't wait to delve into this topic with you because this is one that I have personally struggled with a lot in my life. And if it hadn't been for some of Darrell's leadership in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I've lived this out. This is truth, people. This really works. And I can't wait for you to meet my friend, Darrell. Darrell, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, good to be here, man.
Yeah. So Darrell has been a mentor and a coach for me over the years. Just one of those people who you come to count on and love and appreciate. And Darrell, what a privilege it is to have you on the show today. I want you just to tell our listeners, though, a little bit about how you got to where you are today. You're into some really interesting things. You've had a couple pivots career-wise in your life. And so just tell us a little bit about where you are, how you got here.
Yeah. Wow. A lot involved in that, going all the way back. Let me just take you back to high school.
Okay.
I was pretty average, just C student, no confidence. I played some sports and basketball and track, but I lacked a lot of confidence. Really didn't thrive much in school. Was one of those kids that's picked on a little bit. I don't know that I would say, Chad, that I was bullied by today's standards of the word that we're throwing around, being bullied.
Gotcha.
But I was, church boy, preacher kid, all of those things, picked on a little bit. But I was just kind of by myself and just never really had any confidence. Never really believed that I would amount to much. And graduated high school, went on to Bible college or went on to college, Northwest Nazarene University. Same story, C student, just not really anything, dropped out of school, got married, just kind of running from God. When I was 5, I felt called to be a missionary.
Wow.
And I really didn't know what that meant until I started looking at my dad's life, my grandfather's life, and my great-grandfather, and a little bit of his life, and realized that, I'm a 4th generation pastor. And I thought, God, you got the wrong guy. I do not want what I saw in my family's life when it came to the struggles of ministry and those
Sure.
types of things. I thought, let's go into business. And so I ran from God, dropped out of school, ran from God. But I still lacked direction. I lacked meaning, lacked purpose, lacked confidence. And Flagstaff, Arizona, we were married. I was sitting at my couch in Flagstaff, Arizona, when God really got a hold of my life. And it was at that point that I knew that he was calling me.
Wow.
And we made a decision at that point to go to Bible college. And I had a belief shift, and we're going to talk a little bit about that, I think, some beliefs and limiting beliefs. But I had a shift in my beliefs when I really believed that God called me, that he chose me and he wanted me.
It changed things.
It definitely changed things. I got to Bible college and I became a straight A student. I went from just getting by to getting straight A's. Was the DeLong Preacher of the Year that year at Bible college,
Wow.
won awards for Bible reading, just kind of all of a sudden excelling. And then went on staff with my dad after Bible college and started seminary. Graduated with honors from seminary and with the Dean, Academic Dean's Award recipient. And as I was thinking back about that, I was thinking, what shifted? What really moved from average, get by, just making it, to excelling in some things. And there was a shift at that moment where I really believed something different. I believed something different about God, and I believed something different about myself, and that what he was calling me to do and what he wanted me to step into. And that was kind of the journey of that first shift. But then reality happens, right? It's like we get involved in ministry, and now I'm pastoring a church and having some success, and took a small church and grew up pretty quick, grew up a little too quick, created some ministry leadership vacuums and some struggles there. And then I started to question things. And then I started to compare things, and I started to look at myself in comparison to the other pastors on the district, and those who were really, good, and started saying, "Who am I, God?" And I don't know really how that whole shift took place, but kind of drifting back into that, "Who am I that you would want me?" And some of those challenges and struggles with really trying to identify and find my identity in ministry, find my identity in myself and Christ and who I am and what he's called me to be and do. And there was always this tug to missions, but in my mind, missions was always something across water.
Yep.
You had to go and you had to leave everything. And yet I came to realize that God was calling me to be a missionary right here. And we realized that we were surrounded by thousands and thousands of people who are not banging down the door of the church to get in.
Yep.
And so we started planting churches in houses and coffee shops and bars and clubs and anywhere where people were, had a whole movement towards the witch and pagan kind of, they're not banging down the door of the church to get in, but Jesus loves them. And we should love them.
Wow.
And so just really felt God calling me to reach those who were outside the walls.
Yeah.
And there was a kind of a new breath of confidence, a new beginning there that stepped into some stuff and started building some stuff and started growing. And then the Free Methodist Church saw what we were doing, and we ended up in Arizona helping them launch that. And that was all great until an embezzlement took my job, my career, my everything. And now we found ourselves going, wait a minute, who are we? What are we doing? And a big shift took place, and we found ourselves owning a liquidation company and being in business. And a shift from ministry to business. And now I was a fish out of water. Had no clue what I was doing. I was back to that place of identity, and I just really don't know who I am. And struggled through a lot of that. And then we had some marriage struggles and some things in our marriage that we almost lost our marriage, and that was crumbling, and found myself back in Albuquerque, New Mexico, working at a roofing company with some leadership development and trying to use my gifts and abilities in a context that was just eating my lunch. I ended up in depression. I hated getting out of bed, hated going to work. I was making excellent money, but realizing that the money was meaningless because I hated getting up, and I was not being who God called me to be. And I was not using the gifts that he had given me and the talents that he had given me in the aspect of ministry and really impacting people's lives.
There's a whole podcast in that.
Yeah. And it was just a long journey of almost hopelessness. And my wife and I, Robin, came to a place of realizing that it's not worth it. And during that process, though, we had gone to Tony Robbins' Unleashing the Power Within in Florida. And we walked on fire. I let my wife go first, 1,000-degree colds. You go first, baby. If it doesn't
Ladies
work,
first, right?
I'm in. But there was something that happened in that moment where our beliefs shifted. The belief that, we can do hard things. The belief that, I never believed I could do. And all of a sudden we're doing something. And we stepped into personal growth and development, which you would think, Chad, that would be one of the aspects in the church world that would be far more prevalent. And it's just not. But personal growth and development, where we're really investing in growing who we are, And so we started reading, we started diving into personal growth and development. And it was a big shift that took place at that time in our marriage and in what we believed. And so at that point, we said, let's burn the ships. We walked away from, a very, very nice salary, put it on the table. My dad was dying of cancer and I couldn't be with him. So we said, I'm done. And we started marriage coaching, actually, was our first move and shift into helping people in a different way. We had solved some things in our marriage and we were able to really correct some of that. And so we started helping others. And that shifted from marriage coaching into life coaching. We added life coaching. And I was able to be with my dad when he died. I cared for him for 4 months because we had stepped out of the traditional, stepped out of the conventional, stepped out of what everybody expected. And your job sucks, suck it up and go do it.
Right.
To what do we really want to do?
Yeah.
And can we reinvent ourselves? And here I'm pushing 50, or I'm 50 and I'm pushing 60, and it's, can I really reinvent myself? And since then we've reinvented ourselves several times.
Yeah.
And now we find ourselves in a coaching world, health coaches, personal trainers, when you're 59 and Robin's 60, just over 60, and you're getting new degrees in personal training. She's certified personal trainer. I'm certified personal trainer, senior fitness specialist, corrective exercise specialist. We're working on fall prevention. It's like, when do you start doing that?
Yep.
58, 59, it's like, but we've just come to this place of believing differently that we can reinvent ourselves. We can do things differently. And so now we find ourselves, we still struggle with some of those challenges and beliefs, but we find ourselves at a really exciting place in life. Just looking forward to what's coming, what's next. And it's a struggle, but man, that's like, 59 years. There you go, Chad.
60 years and 10 minutes.
Right.
It's been so inspiring. You've been key in my life in a lot of different ways, in ways you probably don't know or realize. And I've been inspired by you so much because I see what you and Robin are doing, and there's always this heart to help people. That's been the common theme since I've known you several years now, has been this common theme of I want to help people. And let me tell you, brother, you do that. You do that in a lot of ways.
Thank you.
And so with me starting this entrepreneurial journey, starting this podcast journey, there were many times where I've had these thoughts of, who am I? I've had these thoughts of, nobody wants to hear me. Nobody wants to hear your voice. You're a nobody. Those, what you call limiting beliefs that have the capability to stop you in your tracks and keep you from living out the life God's called you to live. And in our time together, through coaching and that sort of thing, and in the time where we spent time together, you've led a seminar on those limiting beliefs. And it's one of the most beneficial things that I've been a part of in the last 5 years of my life. Because there's been so many times where I've been on this journey feeling like, okay, God has called me to this, exactly what I'm doing, what we're doing today. God has called me to this, but lacking the belief system, lacking the positive self-talk that you need to keep you moving forward a lot of times. So I've gone back and I've referenced, what did Darrell say about that? And so I couldn't wait to have you on a podcast, because through this journey, I've leaned back on some of your teachings, and I can't wait to share your teachings with my audience. And so you're a man of many talents. But I want to hone in on one of them. For those in our audience that may not be all that familiar with limiting beliefs, although I dare say we've probably all experienced them, we just may not have had the words to call them. How would you define those? And how do they show themselves in our lives?
I think it's pretty simple. It's a belief that limits our potential. Yeah. Any belief that we hold that holds us back. A man's walking down the road and sees an elephant, and we've probably all seen the picture of an elephant with a little rope tied around its huge leg, tied to a little stake in the ground. I mean, the stake's sticking out of the ground this far, and the rope's about this long, and it's tied to this elephant's leg. And the guy's walking down the road. He sees this elephant, and he automatically thinks, there's no way that elephant, if that elephant wanted to, he just lifts his leg. Mm-hmm. How in the world does that little rope and that stake keep that elephant from leaving?
Right.
So he asked the trainer, the elephant trainer that was nearby, and he says, I got to know how you keep an elephant attached with a rope and a stake. And the elephant trainer just said, it's very simple. When the elephant was just a little baby, just really young, we tied his leg to a stake that he couldn't pull. And here's the statement that catches me. And he was conditioned to believe that rope could hold him still and that he could not break free. Wow. He was conditioned to believe it. Mm-hmm. And I think, Chad, that's really, for me, that is the story of limiting beliefs.
Yeah.
That through our life, we've been conditioned to believe certain things that keep us stuck.
Yeah.
Here's the truth. The rope did not hold the elephant.
Mm-hmm.
What held the elephant was a belief about the rope.
Yeah. Well,
the rope and the stake were simply there. And we all know the truth. And here's the big thing. We like to think that beliefs and truth are the same thing. We think that because we believe it, it is truth.
Yes.
So the truth is that elephant could just simply lift his leg and walk away.
Mm-hmm.
And he could be free. The belief is that he's been conditioned through time to hold that rope is where he's stuck. He can't move further.
That describes so many people today, doesn't it?
It does. It does. I think you said it a minute ago. The truth is we all, I don't know that there's anyone that doesn't have a limiting belief.
Yeah.
Even after we've conquered a limiting belief, there's this next layer of, yeah, but, it's like I've done some stuff, but I could never do that.
Yeah.
And I've done some stuff and this person might go, you really? I don't see that in you. You've got so much confidence. You've got so much, yet there's still this sticking point. It's very fascinating to me as we were talking about doing this. I needed to hear your story, Chad. And I'll just tell you very honestly why. This has sat on the shelf for a long time. Because here's the truth. I didn't believe that it was good enough.
Wow.
I didn't believe that it was going to have the impact that you just described. And I teach limiting beliefs, my friend. And yet we all have them, and we conquer them at different levels, and we conquer them at different rates of time.
Right.
But if we're not working on them, we're never growing.
Well,
because they're never going to just disappear.
And in your story, you described this period where you would have this newfound confidence. But then there's this tendency to kind of fall back into some of those old habits.
Yeah.
And limiting beliefs are the same. And it's another one of those situations with every challenge in life comes this process of, I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah.
And let's face it, life is going to throw us curveballs on a regular basis. It's done in your life. It's done in my life. That's just the way life works, right? Our life is unpredictable. We never know what's going to come up next. And there's this thought process of, I don't think I can handle that.
Yeah.
When I think about you, I think of an incredible mind, an incredible coach. Like you just have a way with words. And you have a way of being able to kind of meet people where they are that is rare. And I've just, in my mind, I always just think, well, Darrell's always been that way. But when I hear that story of the things that you've overcome and the places where you've been, and there's been places of darkness.
Yeah.
There's been places of brokenness. Looking at what you overcome to get to where you are today.
Yeah.
I love that. This whole concept of look at the journey. Look at the path. Don't look at the destination. I think that's super, super powerful.
No, thank you.
So those limiting beliefs that we have, can you give us some examples of what that might look like in our lives?
Yeah. So here's the thing that's our limiting beliefs show up in how we talk to ourselves, whether verbally or non-verbally.
Yeah.
They show up in our negative self-talk. They show up in the words and the sentences we use. And here's what I found, Chad. It's very interesting. Very rarely would we ever talk to somebody else the way we talk to ourselves.
Right.
We would never say, "You stupid idiot." And yet that's the way we talk to ourselves.
Yeah. Right.
And so when we start listening, and I like to say, think about what you think about.
Hmm.
When we start listening to ourselves, and what are the most common sentences we start using, we'll start to hear "I can'ts," "I shouldn't," I'm too," "I'm this," "I'm that."
Hmm.
And they're all from a negative perspective. And negative self-talk is one of the quickest ways to identify the surface level limiting beliefs. But limiting beliefs, we have beliefs and we have dominant beliefs. We have beliefs that are under the surface and way subconscious, and we have these dominant beliefs. And let me just explain real quick for your audience that the difference between a belief and a dominant belief.
Yeah, that's
I
important.
believe that Jesus died for everybody. But then I have a dominant belief that I'm unworthy.
Hmm.
The dominant belief is what's going to drive my actions.
Yes.
I believe everybody should eat healthy. My dominant belief is it's too expensive.
Hmm.
So I can have a belief about something, but I hold this dominant belief. The dominant belief will always drive our behavior. It will always drive our actions.
Yeah.
And so we have these beliefs, and we say, "I can't this." And "can't" is always a word that lends itself to a limiting belief. It's "I can't afford it. I can't. I'm too old. I can't write a book. I'm too old.
Yeah.
I can't start a new business. I'm too old." Colonel Sanders started his business when he was 65 with $100 of his Social Security check.
Yeah.
And now we have Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Yep.
And why do I think that I can't? Because my age.
Mm-hmm.
My age doesn't determine my ability.
Mm.
But we've attached that to it. So limiting beliefs are easily identified, or most quickly identified, I should say, in listening to our negative self-talk about what we can't do, or how we're too old or too ugly or too this or too heavy or too thin or too, so those are the things that I think help us identify the limiting beliefs first.
Yeah, there was this phrase growing up that we had: "Can't, never could."
Right? That's good.
And I latched onto that, and I still say that in my family. I
Well,
still
here's
say
something
that.
interesting about that word and our brain. I love brain science. I
Mhm.
love what's happening in the brain.
Mhm.
So the word "can't" triggers something in the brain. The brain is always trying to prove us right.
Hmm.
So as soon as we say "I can't," the brain goes and looks for all the evidence to show that.
Fascinating. Okay.
Okay, so I say, "I can't afford it. I can't afford a coach. I can't afford your program. I can't afford whatever." The brain's going to go, "Yeah, because remember you just had that bill, or you remember that just happened, or remember you've got this expense, or remember," and it starts to gather all the evidence to support the can't.
Yep.
Okay. As soon as you shift that from an "I can't" to a "how can I," your brain tries to go solve the problem. So "I can't afford it." Or better question is get "can't" out of there and say, how could I afford that? And all of a sudden the brain goes, "Well, have you seen the stuff building up in your garage that you haven't used for 30 years? What if you sold this and you got rid of that and you got rid of that, and I haven't used that for 30 years and my health's more important than that?" All of a sudden, instead of the "I can't afford it," the brain went to solve the problem and give you a solution, because you shifted from a "I can't" to a "how can I."
That is so powerful.
That's what the brain is trying to prove you right.
Yeah.
We're familiar, and I know you are. A lot of people may not have heard of our RAS, our reticular activating system.
Mm-hmm.
The reticular activating system of the brain is the part of our brain that's filtering the things we care about and don't care about. Could you imagine, Chad, if you're driving down the road and every sense and every object and everything is all that you pay attention to all of it? It would be so overwhelming. You couldn't do it. So we have to have a system in our brain that filters out things that don't matter. You're shopping for a car, right? And all of a sudden you start seeing those cars Were they never there in the first place? No, they've always been there. Then why didn't you see them? Because you didn't care about them.
Right.
Your RAS, your reticular activating system, was filtering them out so that you only saw the things that you were interested in, that were important to you, the things you cared about, the things you told yourself that you wanted, that were important to you. And I think this is where it's really cool with limiting beliefs. And it's kind of where you can see I get a little excited about this stuff, because this is where it's really cool. If we really understood how the reticular activating system worked, we could use it to our advantage.
Yes.
Unfortunately, most people don't even know it's going on. So it just happens to them. Mm-hmm. But if we understand that the reticular activating system takes what we care about and starts showing us that stuff, well, why is it that I always see my failures? Because that's all I care about. It's what I've told myself. See, I did it again. And the brain's going, yeah, let me prove you right. It's over here too. And see that failure drive by, and see that one drive by. And I'm just going to start showing you all the stuff you say you care about.
Right.
What would happen if we started reprogramming our reticular activating system, and we started with some strategies to really be able to say, oh, look, and I succeeded there. And I succeeded. You know what? I've got a lot of evidence around me that I'm not what they said I am.
Yeah.
I'm not what my uncle did. I'm not what my dad said. I'm not that. But my teacher said you'd never amount to anything. Look, I've amounted there and there and there. And all of a sudden, hey, yeah, God, can you use this? God wants to use us for greatness. Mm-hmm. God wants us to use us for big things.
Yeah.
God wants to take us and use it and make a difference in people's lives.
Yeah.
And yet we limit. God's unlimited. And we limit.
Yeah.
Because all we see is what we've asked the reticular activating system to show us.
Yeah. And what makes that so impactful is because that can free us from beliefs that have been holding us back our entire lives.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people from a pastoral perspective that I see that have this long-standing belief about themselves that came from something that they were told as a child.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I'll give an example of that. When I was a child, I was not told these words specifically, but through actions and through things, there were several things in my life, whether it be through ball or whether it be through, different coaches and different experiences, that told me I'm not good enough. You're not good enough to start. You're not good enough to make this team. You're not good enough to do this or that. We have to be careful the message we're sending to children. Mm-hmm. Let me just say that. Because some of the things we say to them, we have to be careful, because some of those things stick.
Yeah.
And so for a lot of my life, I've had this limiting belief that I'm not good enough. And when I look at, the things that I've accomplished and what I have, and this isn't a pat on the back for Chad, but it's just when you look at reality versus you look at the lies that you believe, you see how much you've been held back by it. Mm-hmm. There are people who, their dads have told them, particularly men, their dads have told them something like, you'll never amount to anything. You'll never be this. You'll never be that. And they believe that their whole lives. And it's very much like that elephant. They could easily overcome it. However, that belief keeps them stuck.
Yeah.
Another thing I'll mention too is not only do we have to be careful what we say to people from a negative standpoint, the opposite also stands true as well. So as we were talking about, the impact you've made in my life, I'm kicking myself. Well, man, why have I not told him that sooner? Because that activates that reticular activating system to say, hey, and that other person, now they're thinking, instead of, man, I'm not good enough. I'm not. Oh, okay. Well, hey, this is an example of when I was good enough. This was an example of when that did impact people. And then you start looking for those. So one comment can make someone stuck.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. I appreciate you saying what you said today. I will catalog that now as evidence that, Darrell, you are good enough. Mm-hmm. And this program, this seminar on limiting beliefs is a good quality. Mm-hmm. Can I improve it? Absolutely. I think that's the other thing. If we overcome that limiting belief, we come to the place of realizing that we may not be where we want to be, but it's that journey of, but I have the skills and abilities to make this one notch better.
Yeah.
And I have the skills and abilities to make that one notch better.
Yeah.
And can I improve upon this? And because it's a growth process, not a, I went from starting a podcast and a week later I'm Ed Milet. It's like,
Yeah.
but can I learn something from his journey? Can I learn something from her journey that I can implement this week? And I think that's the other part of this limiting belief conversation, Chad, is that when we strive to overcome limiting beliefs, we have to identify it, but then we also have to recognize the lie that's in it and the truth aside it.
Yeah. That challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. Because once I recognize the truth, then I can start my reticular activating system working off of that truth to find the evidence that, yes, I can move forward. So instead of, I'm so stupid, to the truth is I can learn.
And a lot of times we don't know what we don't know until we don't know it.
Right. Right.
Yeah. But a lot of times we're hard on ourselves on the backside, like, man, why didn't you? Well, we didn't know what we didn't know at that point. And so using what you're given, using what you've learned to improve is always part of it. One of the activities that you had us do in that seminar, Darrell, was to look at the beliefs that we are holding, the things that are limiting us, keeping us, for example, you're not good enough. And challenge that belief. Is that true? That was one of the things I walked away from is, all right, think about the way you talk to yourself. Ask yourself, is that true? And if it's not true, and 99% of the time it's not, if it's not true, then what is the truth? That was a powerful example of how to go about this. So as we kind of wrap up here, what are some things our listeners could do to become incrementally better today?
Yeah. First, say this about that exercise. One of the things we have to be careful of is we will be very quick to say, but it is true.
Mm.
Because challenging the truth is hard.
Mm.
And I'll be the first to tell you, overcoming limiting beliefs, there's 3 simple steps, but they're hard.
Yeah.
Because challenging the truth, we're so conditioned to believe that our beliefs are truth.
Yeah, that's good.
And the other thing is challenging the truth sometimes isn't directly related to the truth. I have to see it a completely different way. So, for example, I'm not good enough. The lie is that in that I'm attaching an identity to something I did here and making that my identity.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is I can learn. So when we say, is it true or not, we tend to stay back here with, am I stupid or not stupid?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a this or that. It's a stupid, not stupid.
Yeah. Dichotomy. Yeah.
Versus what's the truth? The truth is I have the ability to learn. God gave me a brain and it works. Now the truth is I can learn new things. I can learn, if you take any industry, I'm not a rocket scientist. When it comes to rocket science, I'm stupid. That's the truth, right?
Same.
Well,
yeah.
But the truth is I can learn.
Yeah.
And if I started investing my life in learning rocket science, guess what I would have a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now?
Yeah.
I would have a degree in rocket science and I would no longer be quote unquote stupid in rocket science.
Well, I like that.
And so sometimes we need to really shift how we think about the truth.
Mm-hmm.
The truth is God gave me a brain. It works. I can learn.
And
the truth is, you know what? If I looked at my life right now, not mine because I'm not there anymore, but I'm unhealthy. I'll never be healthy. The truth is I'm unhealthy. Well, what's the truth? The truth is I can make different decisions on how I eat food.
Yeah.
I can make different decisions on how I go to the gym. God gave me a body. My legs work. My arms work. Even if my legs didn't work and I'm in a wheelchair, I can still learn to do chair yoga, chair this, chair that. But so many times, there's my belief is I can't get healthy because I'm stuck in a wheelchair.
Yep.
And so I think that's important in that. Now, I totally segued to your actual question, Chad. I'm sorry.
No, that's great. And one thing I want to add there is, okay, you may be that right now, but you don't have to stay there.
Yeah.
And that's important. I'm so glad you went there. So yeah. Continue.
Yeah. So the how-tos, what's something that your audience can do to make incremental steps forward. I think one thing is embed new truths, embed new beliefs. And that really is about taking the reticular activating system and making things new and different. So one of the challenges that I love to have people do is win journals. Micro wins. What are my little wins today? What did I do well today? What did I do right today? And write that stuff down and start seeing it. Gratitude journals, things where you start to help yourself start to see the new evidence that's already all around you. Yes. See your wins instead of always seeing the negative. You're conditioned and your brain is going to always be trying to pull you back because that, neuroplasticity is that those pathways in our brain that are so grooved and ingrained. Neuroplasticity basically means you can create a new pathway. Yeah. But that one's still there for a while.
Yep.
And that's why it's so hard to overcome our limiting beliefs, because we have 50 years of being told and telling ourselves the lie over and over and over again that the brain's just going, oh, wait a minute, what are you doing here?
That's a deep groove.
So yeah. I think helping people just start small of re-identifying their wins, their gratitude, their observation about life, challenging the lies, challenging the belief, and just really questioning the rope that ties them down. Because here's the truth. In every single one of us, Chad, God has given us everything we need to be successful. Yeah, if we're not, right. It's because we've got a limiting rope that we are just believing is stuck there, and we're stuck to that rope.
Right.
And all we have to do sometimes is lift our leg and prove it otherwise. Yep. Just prove it. Yep. Just lift the leg and go try it. Go try, step into writing that book, step into starting a podcast, step into getting healthy, step into, people go, I don't have time. That's a limiting belief. Yeah, you believe you don't have time to get healthy. My first client shows up at the gym at 4:00. Guess who's there with him? Does it suck to get out of bed? Yes, but you know what? I have a job. I have a mission. Some of the busiest people in the world have time to work out. Yeah. So I can't afford it. Challenge the belief. Just challenge it. Ask yourself, how can I? Yeah. How can I find time? How can I afford it? How can I start that book? How can I start that podcast? How can I get this limiting beliefs course back in circulation and make a difference in people's lives? So you challenged me today, Chad, to actually take my work and do something with it.
Love it. Love it.
So thank you.
Well, and part of what I teach and coach in the RevRx method is called the Abundant Life Framework. And I pull that from John 10:10, which has always been one of my favorite verses, that Jesus says he's come so we may have life and have it abundantly.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to mention about that is that limiting beliefs keep us from living abundantly. They keep us from living the life God's called us to live. Yeah. And if we're going to step into that, if we're going to really, live God's best and not settle for less than what he intended for us, like you said, he intended for us to be great for him. Yeah. Great for the kingdom. And so those things keep us from reaching our potential in Christ.
It's living to the fullest capacity of who God's created me to be.
Yes.
It's living into the fullest capacity of who God's created me to be. Yeah. And that's an ongoing, changing process.
I love it.
He's created us. He's given us, and he's got a mission for us and a call on our lives. It doesn't matter who you are. And it's really living into that.
Love it, man. Well, thanks for being you. Thanks for being such an important figure in my life and many others. I love what you're doing. I can't wait to see what the future holds for you. And, man, just love you and appreciate you, brother.
Likewise, my friend. You're awesome.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for listening to the RevRx podcast. We hope you enjoyed what you heard today, and if so, we'd love it if you would hit that subscribe button so that you'll never miss a new episode from us. Also, feel free to leave us reviews and comments, as we'd love to hear from you. Be blessed and be the very best you.